In just 3 years, an ordinary man became the shadow that made seasoned captains surrender before a single shot was fired. Not through strength, not through firepower, through fear. His name was Edward Teach, but the world would come to know him by another name. A name that has crossed 300 years and still stirs something hard to put into words the first time you hear it. Blackbeard. And the most unsettling part of all isn't the legend. It's what stood behind it. If this kind of story moves you, real stories, told from the inside, hit that like button now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Every one of those actions helps this channel keep bringing you files most people will never hear about. Welcome to Concealed File. No one knows exactly where Edward Teach was born. Records point to Bristol, England, around 1680. A port city, the second largest in the British Empire, a place where fortunes came and went across the seas, and where a boy growing up by the ocean could dream of far more than an ordinary life. His family had some means, a steady, uneventful life. No sign, no hint that this boy carried within him something capable of setting history ablaze. But the years passed, and Edward decided he would not just be another forgotten name. As an adult, in his 30s, used to the smell of salt and the roll of the sea, he left Bristol for Jamaica to work as a privateer. It's important to understand the difference. A privateer operates on the edge of the law, but with authorization, a mercenary hired by the crown to attack enemy ships during wartime. Not an official soldier. Someone who sails, attacks, plunders, and in return, has royal permission to keep a share of what he steals. For Edward, it was the perfect opportunity. The War of the Spanish Succession was underway. The British crown needed men willing to fight at sea. Edward signed a letter of marque, a contract authorizing him to attack Spanish ships in England's name. The terms were extraordinarily generous. 80% of everything he seized was his to keep. Only 20% went to the king. The war lasted from 1701 to 1713. Edward adapted to that life with an almost unsettling ease. He attacked and plundered under the crown's authority, feeling, for the first time, exactly where he belonged. But every war comes to an end. When peace arrived in 1713, hundreds of privateers lost, overnight, the only livelihood they knew. Edward was one of them. He drifted to New Providence Island, today part of the Bahamas, a territory with almost no law, where pirates were welcomed with open doors and stolen money moved without questions asked. It was there that his path crossed with Captain Benjamin Hornigold. Edward's talent didn't go unnoticed. He quickly became Hornigold's right-hand man, second in command of an entire pirate fleet. Within a year, he'd been promoted to captain of his own ship, with 70 men under his command. Commanding a ship in the 18th century took more than courage. It took the ability to read, write, calculate, and navigate with precision. Rare skills among ordinary sailors of the time. Edward had mastered all of it, and that competence turned his partnership with Hornigold into a true pirate alliance. Two captains terrorizing the American East Coast, from North Carolina down to Cuba. The plunder piled up, but success brought the first crack. Hornigold avoided direct confrontation with the British Navy. Edward knew no such limits. He wanted to attack any ship, under any flag. The disagreement grew until it split their very crews. In 1717, Hornigold accepted the crown's pardon and walked away from piracy for good. And just like that, with no rival left to match him, Edward Teach took absolute command of the entire fleet. 3 ships, nearly 200 armed men, more power and more firepower than any pirate known before him. It was at this moment that he stopped being just a dangerous captain and began, deliberately, to build a legend. In late 1717, he captured a French slave ship called La Concorde, armed with 14 cannons, carrying enslaved people bound for French Guiana. Edward forced the ship to surrender and offered its enslaved crew the chance to join his fleet. The French vessel itself, he kept. He reinforced it to 40 cannons and gave it a new name, Queen Anne's Revenge. It would become the most legendary ship of the entire golden age of piracy. It was also around this time that he moved beyond simply being a feared pirate. He let his beard and hair grow to lengths almost grotesque for the era, the beard climbing nearly to his eyes. long enough to braid and tie off with ribbons. His hair, thick, black, and long. And that's where Edward Teach ceased to exist. Blackbeard was born, but looks alone weren't enough. He went further. Before every boarding, he'd tie lit fuses into his hat, his beard, and his hair. When he stormed an enemy ship, he emerged wrapped in smoke and the reek of burning sulfur, a figure who seemed to have walked straight out of hell's own gates. All of it calculated, all of it theater. Every detail of that image existed for one purpose: instant surrender. Survivors, decades later, would describe him as looking like the devil himself made flesh, tall, dressed in black, towering, wreathed in smoke. His flag followed the same logic. While most pirates flew the classic skull and crossbones, Blackbeard's was something else entirely. A horned skeleton, the devil himself, holding an hourglass in one hand, and in the other, a spear aimed straight at a bleeding heart. Years of nearly unbroken plunder followed. The name Queen Anne's Revenge alone was enough to freeze the blood of entire crews. And with the fame came the hunters. British authorities began actively hunting Blackbeard. The king hired a seasoned privateer, Woodes Rogers, with one mission alone: bring him down. But Blackbeard understood something the hunters often forgot. Real power isn't holding a weapon. It's having men willing to use one the instant you give the word. The psychological terror, the hellish image, the silence before the strike, all of it paid off more than any battle ever could. And survivors spreading tales of the demon of the seas only fed his reputation further. His favorite tactic was as simple as it was devastating: block the entrances to major trading ports along North America, position his ships strategically, and wait, like a motionless predator, for a loaded vessel to sail into range. Despite all the theater of terror, there are consistent accounts that Blackbeard avoided unnecessary violence against prisoners. Dozens of captains surrendered at the mere sight of his silhouette before a single cannon was ever fired. He cultivated the image of a monster, paradoxically, to avoid bloodshed. When he learned Woodes Rogers had sailed from England specifically to hunt him down, Blackbeard abandoned the Bahamas and moved up the coast to North Carolina. And it was there that something happened, something history, for a long time, dismissed as a simple accident. The Queen Anne's Revenge struck a sandbank and sank. Another ship in the fleet, attempting to help, was badly damaged as well. To any hunter arriving from England, it looked like an extraordinary stroke of luck. But Blackbeard knew exactly what he was doing. The true reason behind that accident wouldn't be understood for almost 3 centuries. Without his flagship, but still with a hunter closing in, he made a bold move. He struck a direct deal with the governor of North Carolina, Charles Eaton. He officially returned to the status of privateer. He received a full pardon for every crime committed up to that point, and still kept authorization to sail armed. He settled in Bath, near the governor's own residence. For a few months, he lived like a local celebrity, invited to dinners where he told his own exploits. But the calm didn't last. In November 1718, after fully returning to piracy, Lieutenant Robert Maynard tracked him down to Ocracoke Island. On the night of November 21st, he spotted a pirate ship at anchor and decided to wait for daybreak. On the other side of the island, Blackbeard was spending the night at ease: food, drink, music, with a reduced crew of just over 20 men. He had no idea it would be the last sunrise he'd ever see. The clash was brutal. Blackbeard didn't so much as flinch when a shot struck his thigh. Surrounded, he was hit again and again, 5 bullet wounds and roughly 20 sword cuts, before he finally fell. Maynard beheaded Blackbeard and hung his head from the ship's mast, parading it along the entire American East Coast. The rest of his body was thrown into the sea and never recovered. The bounty for his capture was 400 pounds. Despite the feat, Maynard never got the promotion he expected and ended up forgotten by history. Blackbeard, on the other hand, was never forgotten. In just 3 years as a pirate, Edward Teach built one of the most successful careers in the history of piracy. Specializing in raiding ships loaded with gold from the Inca and Maya empires, he amassed a fortune estimated at over £1 million, the equivalent today of nearly $100 million. And to this day, no one knows where that fortune is. Before he died, legend has it Blackbeard claimed that only he and the devil himself knew where his treasure was hidden, and that whichever of the two lived longer would keep it all. In 1996, a team of divers located the wreck of the Queen Anne's Revenge. Over 400,000 artifacts have since been recovered from the site, 40 confirmed cannons, an arsenal staggering for its time. The treasure was never found. The most widely accepted theory today is unsettling in its simplicity. The sandbank wreck may not have been an accident at all, but one final piece of theater, carefully staged, after every last piece of treasure had already been stripped from the ship before he sank it on purpose. One last trick, from the man who turned fear into a science. In 3 years, Blackbeard defied the authorities of entire empires, built enough wealth for several lifetimes, and carved his own name indelibly into history. But what few know is that behind all the legend, he rarely killed without need. His true weapon was never the sword. It was fear, theater, a beard wreathed in flame, dead silence before the first shot ever rang out. More than 300 years later, the name Blackbeard still cuts through time, not just as a criminal, but as a man who understood, before anyone else, that fear, while built, can be more powerful than any weapon. And somewhere at the bottom of the ocean, the treasure he hid is still waiting. Drop a comment and tell us what you think. Was the wreck an accident or a calculated move? If this story stuck with you, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because every week, there's a real story waiting to be told. Stories that stayed hidden. Stories that need to be heard. The next one might be exactly the one you never knew you needed. File closed. For now, concealed file, where the truth always surfaces.